We have already discussed useState, useEffect, and useRef. Now let's learn another important React hook, useMemo. UseMemo is mainly used for performance optimization. But what exactly does that mean? Let's understand it with a real life example. Imagine you are building a shopping website. Your website has thousands of products. You want to filter those products based on category. For example, shoes, laptops, or headphones. Every time the component re-renders, React may perform that filtering calculation again. But what if the calculation is expensive? We don't want to React to repeat the same calculation unnecessarily. That's where useMemo comes in. What is useMemo? UseMemo is a React hook used to memorize a calculated value. In simple words, it remembers the result of calculation and reuses it until its dependencies change. Why do we use useMemo? We use it to avoid unnecessary expensive calculations during re-renders. If the dependencies haven't changed, React can reuse the previously calculated result. useMemo helps with expansive calculations, avoiding unnecessary recalculations, performance optimization. This is the basic syntax of useMemo. Look at the syntax. We call useMemo and pass two things. First, a function containing our calculation. Second, a dependency array. The result returned from the calculation is stored in memoized value. Another simple example here, calculate something is an expansive calculation. React calculates it and remembers the result. The dependency is count. So when count changes, React calculates the value again. If count doesn't change, React can reuse the previous result. So behind the scenes, React keeps track of the dependencies. When a dependency changes, React runs the calculation again. When the dependencies haven't changed, React can reuse the previously calculated value. Does useMemo stop re-rendering? No. One important point, useMemo does not stop the component from re-rendering. The component can still re-render. useMemo only helps avoid repeating a calculation unnecessarily. This is an excellent interview point. Look at the comparison of useMemo and useState. useState is used to store state and update the UI. useMemo is used to remember the result of a calculation. They solve different problems. When we compare useMemo and useRef, useRef stores a mutable value and can also access DOM elements. useMemo remembers the result of a calculation, so don't confuse them. Next, useMemo and useCallback. This is very important for interviews. A very common interview question is, what's the difference between useMemo and useCallback? The easiest way to remember it is, useMemo memorize a value, useCallback memorize a function. That's the key difference. The first mistake is using useMemo everywhere. Not every calculation needs memorization. For a simple calculations, useMemo may add unnecessary complexity. The second mistake is thinking useMemo prevents re-renders. It doesn't. It only helps avoid unnecessary recalculations. The third mistake is confusing useMemo with useCallback. Remember this. useMemo memorize a value, useCallback memorize a function. What is useMemo? useMemo is a React hook used to memorize a calculated value and avoid unnecessary recalculations. Why do we use useMemo? To optimize expensive calculations and avoid unnecessary recalculations during re-renders. Does useMemo prevent re-rendering? No, it only memorizes a calculated value. It does not prevent the component from re-rendering. When does the calculation run again? When one of the dependencies changes. Difference between useMemo and useCallback. Should we use useMemo for every calculation? No, it's mainly useful for expansive calculations where avoiding unnecessary recalculation provides a performance benefit. So let's quickly revise. useMemo remembers the calculated value. It can help us avoid unnecessary expensive calculations. It doesn't prevent re-renders and we shouldn't use it everywhere. And remember the most important interview point, useMemo memorize a value while useCallback memorize a function. Now you understand the basics of useMemo, including its syntax, real-life use case, behind the scenes working, common mistakes, and interview questions. In the next video, we will learn use callback and understand exactly how it is different from use memo. If you are preparing for React interviews, don't miss the next video. Like, share, and subscribe to the Dev Journey with G. Happy coding!